Hello everybody, it's Vertical Sandwich. Welcome back to book reviews. And I don't really know how to do what I'm about to do. I'm gonna try it. Okay. Um Sorry for the giant sticker on the front, but this is Terry Pratchett's The Color of Magic. And I'm in the States, so he misspelled color. Sorry. Anyway, on a world supported on the back of a giant turtle, sex unknown, a gleeful, explosive, wickedly eccentric expedition sets out. There is an avaricious but inept wizard, a naive tourist whose luggage moves on hundreds of dear little legs, dragons who only exist if you believe in them, and of course, the edge of the planet. Okay, so this is the first book in the Discworld series. And I don't really know how I'm going to handle this because I'm not going to sit and talk to you about every... I think we might throw in a Discworld book like every once in a while, right? Because I'm on book 10 of the series. And it's still really good. And that says so much, right? So, this is essentially fantasy comedy, right? But extremely funny fantasy comedy. That being said, one of the reasons I'm doing this review now is because for some reason my copy of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is missing, because I was going to just do that series. Because that's only, that's a trilogy, so it's only 6 books. Not even kidding. It's a trilogy of 6 books. It's actually, I mean, it's five books and then, but the Discworld series is 40 books long. So Terry Pratchett did, I mean, the majority of his writing in the Discworld series. And there are several plot lines that, so the first 2 books follow a wizard named Rincewind. He is, at the beginning of this book, he gets expelled from the Unseen University because I think he's been a student for 40 years and he hasn't mastered a single spell. He is at like wizard level or magician level 0. And it's all because he got this book, or he looked into, I believe, a book called, I believe, the Octavio. And one of the forbidden spells, like the most powerful spells in the universe, leapt off the page and burned itself into his brain. So he can't learn any other spells because there's a super powerful evil spell living in his brain. He ends up, he lives in the city of Ankh-Morpork, and there's so much to this, right? Like, there's so much to this that, like, almost every Discworld story revolves around Ankh-Morpork, and almost every story talks about... The first 7 books of this series just describe that the Discworld is literally a flat world that is riding on the back of 4 elephants that are standing on the back of the giant turtle Aturan, right? And this is a thing that has been confirmed. Like, you can look over the edge. People have seen the turtle. It's like a thing that's like they know. And magic exists in this world, right? That's how things go. So, there's a lot to unpack starting the Discworld. And Terry Pratchett is brilliant at this, right? He gives you a couple books and, like, he pieces it together to the point where when you're reading the 6th book of the Discworld, you know so much about kind of what's going on that, you know, by the 7th book, he stopped explaining that there's a turtle. Like, because every book starts with the same thing, and we'll read, in a distant and second-hand set of dimensions, in an astral plane that was never meant to fly, the curling star mists waver and part. See, great Atuan, the turtle comes, swimming slowly through the interstellar gulf, hydrogen frost on his ponderous limbs, his huge and ancient shell packed with meteor craters. Through sea-sized eyes that are crusted with rheum and asteroid dust, he stares fixedly at the destination. But what I want to read you from this book is Rincewind talking to Twoflower, who is the world's first tourist, about the spell in his head, right? And kind of, at this point, Twoflower has hired Rincewind as a guide, and Rincewind's just kind of like taking him along. And Rincewind is a coward, and he's like, he's not an idiot. Rincewind is not an idiot, but he is a coward. And Two Flower is um Two Flower's an idiot. He is. And so anyway, then what said Two Flower, and he's talking to Two Flower in the scene about, like, he's just told him the story of the spell burning itself into his brain. Oh, they dragged me out, thrashed me, of course, and no one knows what the spell does? Rincewind shook his head. It vanished from the page, he said. No one will know until I say it, or until I die, of course. Then it will sort of say itself. For all I know, it stops the universe, or ends time, or anything. Two Flower patted him on the shoulder. No sense in brooding, he said cheerfully. Let's have another look for a way out. Rincewind shook his head. All the terror had been spent now. He had broken through the terror barrier, perhaps, and was in the dead, calm state of mind that lies on the other side. Anyway, he had ceased to gibber. We're doomed, he stated. We've been walking around all night, I tell you. This place is a spider web. It doesn't matter which way we go, we'll end up in the center. It was kind of you to come looking for me anyway, said Two Flower. How did you manage it exactly? It was very impressive. Oh, well, began the wizard awkwardly. I just thought, can't leave old Two Flower there, and... So what we've got to do now is find this Bel Shamharoth person and explain things to him, and perhaps he'll let us out, said Two Flower. Rincewind ran a finger around his ear. It must be the funny echoes in here, he said. I thought I heard you use words like find and explain. That's right. Rincewind glared at him in the hellish purple glow. Find Belisham Haroth? He said. Yes, we don't have to get involved. Find the Soul Render and not get involved? Just give him a nod, I suppose, and ask the way to the exit. Explain things to the sender of Inigar? Rincewind bit off the end of the word just in time and finished. You're insane! Hey, come back! He darted down the passage after Two Flower, and after a few moments came to a halt with a groan. The violet light was intense here, giving everything new and unpleasant colors. This wasn't a passage. It was a wide room with walls to a number that Rincewind didn't dare to contemplate, and 7A passages radiating from it. Rincewind saw a little way off a low altar with the same number of sides as 4 times 2. Yeah, because they can't say sender of 8. It's like he who will not be named. It didn't occupy the center of the room, however. The center was occupied by a huge stone slab with twice as many sides as a square. It looked massive. In the strange light, it appeared to be slightly tilted, with one edge standing proud of the slabs around it. Two Flower was standing on it. Hey, Rincewind! Look what's here! The luggage came ambling down one of the other passages that radiated from the room. That's great, said Rincewind. Fine, it can lead us out of here. Now. Two Flower was already rummaging in the chest. Yes, he said, after I've taken a few pictures. Just let me fit the attachment. I said now! Rincewind stopped. Hrun the Barbarian was standing in the passage mouth directly opposite him. A great black sword held in one hand-sized fist. You, said Hrun uncertainly. Yes, said Rincewind. Run, isn't it? Long time no see. What brings you here? Run pointed to the luggage. That, he said. This much conversation seemed to exhaust Run. Then he added in a tone that combined statement, claim, threat, and ultimatum. Mine. It belongs to Two Flower here, said Rincewind. Here's a tip. Don't touch it. It dawned on him that this was precisely the wrong thing to say, but Hrun had already pushed Two Flower away and was reaching for the luggage, which sprouted legs, backed away, and raised its lid threateningly. In the uncertain light, Rincewind thought he could see rows of enormous teeth, white as bleached beech wood. Hrun, he said quickly, there's something I ought to tell you. Hrun turned a puzzled face to him. What? It's about numbers. Look, you know if you add 7 and 1, or 3 and 5, or take 2 from 10, you get a number? While you're here, don't say it. And we might just all stand a chance of getting out of here alive. Or merely just dead. It's that level of like, Pratchett has a ridiculousness to him that's wonderful. It's fun. It's super fun. But he also has an adventure energy to him that's perfect. Like, he writes a great fantasy novel that just happens to involve this piece of luggage that has hundreds of legs. It eats people. It eats people, and then nobody knows what happens to them. Like, they end up in the luggage, which looks like a big chest with legs, and then, like, it'll open its lid and the laundry that's inside is still clean. But there's no people in there. Like, I don't know what to tell you. The luggage is an amazing character, by the way. It's an amazing character. Richwind is an amazing character. Two Flower is an amazing character. And their adventures and stuff, and like, what's going on in here? And Pratchett's universe is just worth falling into. Like, that's the thing about the Discworld series, is you look at it and you go like, oh my god, who would write 40 books of a series? And I guess the only answer to that is Terry Pratchett, right? But the thing about it is that Pratchett did a really great job of creating a world that is both kind of traditionally a fantasy world, but also incredibly interesting. And then what he also did was he did a great job of making several casts of characters that you could follow through storylines that sometimes were interconnected and sometimes weren't. So, like, the first two books focus on these two characters. The second book picks up right, like, book 1 and 2 are the same story. Book 2 is a sequel to book 1. Book 3 has none of the characters, except maybe one, from the first two books of it. Like, it just goes and follows, I think, a set of witches. And then the fourth book, which is unbelievably good. So unbelievably good that, like, the fourth book is just, like, knock you out of your chair amazing. It's so amazing. Yeah, I mean, unbelievable. Just super fun. And, like, that's the thing, is that, like, one of the things that we don't do a lot on this channel, or in these book reviews, is talk about good humor. And there is a lot of good humor out there, right? So, like, you know, obviously the sci-fi standard is, like, the first thing that people will mention will be, like, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. But, like, in fantasy, I'm not aware of a ton of fantasy humor, but, like, I mean, this is such a huge, overarching thing. And, like I said, I picked it up just thinking, oh, I actually saw the BBC version of the first two books. Like, they made, a pretty high production value movie where the bad guy's played by Tim Curry and stuff, that you can watch. And I saw that and went, oh, that's like Discworld stuff, huh? And so then I picked up the first book. No, I read the first book and then I saw that series. And then I was like, oh, I guess I'll read the second book. And then I liked the second book so much that I bought the next 8. And I'm on the 10th book right now, and I have bought book 11 and 12. Because the series hasn't dipped in quality yet. So, if it gets bad, I'll stop reading it. But it hasn't gotten bad, so, like, I just keep reading them. And they just keep being really good. They're just really fun, they're paced really well. The jokes they're just amazing. They're just super amazing. And, like, are some books not as good as others? Well, yeah. Like, you get to Mort, and, like, Mort is just, like, the high watermark. You just know. So, like, book 1, book 2, book 3, book 4, you know, book 5, book 7, is, like, it's just great that Pratchett was able to kind of run through. And then as he goes, he starts integrating kind of, I mean, a lot of the things are parodies of things that we've all experienced in the real world, right? There's Discworld versions of things like democracy, or ancient Egypt, or psychology, or Hollywood. And those things are it's just fantastic. that, like, Pratchett was irreverent, and he was also very smart. And he was very funny, and only a slight bit, only a little bit dirty. It's great stuff. It's just amazing stuff. So yeah, Color of Magic, the first Discworld novel. And so my plan now is for our next week book review, we're going to talk about the sequel, and then we'll be off Discworld for a little bit. But I would expect there to be further kind of Discworld reviews, mainly because I really want to talk about Mort and how amazing Mort is. Yeah, so Color of Magic. The Discworld series in general, I have found to be an amazingly fun read. And, you know, are you going to learn a ton, you know, are you going to be asked very deep existential questions by Terry Pratchett? No. Whatever deep existential thing is going on, that's what he'll be making fun of. But Pratchett isn't. Pratchett is concerned only with making you laugh and kind of making you enjoy the characters in the story, and he's really good at that. So, yeah. Discworld. Color of Magic. Terry Pratchett. Let's see if we can get a picture of him. This is the Inside Dust Jacket picture, and he just looks like the kind of guy who would write 40 comedy fantasy novels. So, yeah. When we come back, The Light Fantastic. Bye, everybody.